right now, maybe you're gonna get one after our panel today, because we're gonna talk about game-based career path. We're gonna dive into these kind of realms. We're gonna explore a little bit what is possible at the moment, and I have a wonderful set of panelists with me today, starting with Yvonne Scheer from the Austrian Esports Federation. Applause. And Arianusch Riesner, she's from the Nerd Sisters podcast. Give it up for her. Our next panel guest is Stefan Don Esteban Kuntner. Give it up for him. And last but not least, we're going to be joined by Rafael, Veni, Eisler. I'm so glad we get to chat today. You all have your water. If you need one, just give a sign. And we're going to talk a little bit. Afterwards, there will be a Q&A session. Also, you in the live stream, we are watching you. Not only you are watching us, we know you're here. So if you have questions, just let us know, and we will get to them at the Q&A session. So maybe you could all introduce yourselves a little bit, where you're coming from and why your path is a game-based career path.
Okay, then I'll start. Thank you for having me. My name is Rafael, as you already mentioned, rather known as Veni, for around about 12 years now on the internet. I started when I was 14 years old to upload gaming videos on YouTube. I started with Minecraft. Actually, it was not my idea, somebody talked me into it. But here I am now, so I'm glad he did. And after that, I uploaded regularly on YouTube, built a following, and then I expanded on other platforms like Twitch. Live streaming is mostly where I'm at now. And at the end, it even got me at the status of a Red Bull player. So basically, I'm a Red Bull athlete for gaming now.
And might I interrupt? Yeah. What is regularly uploading for everyone who's here? What is like regular? How can you describe it?
Back when I was still in school and YouTube was the only social platform I was using, it was 2 videos a day. And
impressive.
Now it switches. It depends. Like I do a lot of different stuff on the side now, so there's not that much time for streaming anymore. But usually, as a full-time content creator, regularly would mean daily in any way. Either streaming or doing YouTube videos, whatever, it's daily, anytime. Yeah, so my passion is for esports as well. I've been watching that way before. I started a career in the gaming business myself. And yeah.
And you're into charity?
Yes, of course, I'm into charity as well. I'm hosting together with Willhaben, an Austrian company, Charity Royale, biggest Austrian streaming charity event each year, 6th year in a row now. And we raise money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation to fulfill wishes for children.
And since today, he's even a brand ambassador for them.
Yeah, that was announced by today. Like I'm a Make-A-Wish brand ambassador now. Thank you for mentioning it. Okay, I'll pass it on to you.
Is it on? Oh, thank you. I'm Stefan. I'm also known in the social media or on conventions as Don Esteban, as a stage name. I'm a cosplayer. I think all of you will already be familiar by the term, especially when you watch outside and see all of the cosplayers walk around at Game City here. I was always drawn to gaming when I was little, of course. I was even into the first area of esport back then, when there was not even a real esport back then. It was before YouTube, when I was still playing on Warcraft 3 in school. Earned my first money in tournaments there. Then over the course, I focused even on becoming like a career in the media. So I started a gaming magazine where I used to work in journalism for quite some time for gaming and also esport. And that was before I got into this cool hobby of making costumes and wearing them and presenting characters that you grew up with. Like everyone knows, you have your favorite video game characters, your characters from anime, from shows from the childhood, and there's this possibility to really display and become them. And that's was like 10 years ago now that I started doing my first cosplays. Over the years, a few years ago, I won a big competition. It was a European competition for cosplay, where I placed first and became champion. So that kind of skyrocketed my social medias back then. And since then, I'm, well, traveling a lot and holding keynote speeches and judging competitions at several conventions regarding cosplay, teaching people how to make costumes or how to present themselves.
And what kind of game are you representing today?
It's Cyberpunk. I'm pretty sure everyone knows the game, especially the 2.0, which is
Who has been
really
playing already the DLC? Who are the DLC players? And the original game players? You have to try the DLC.
There's a few hands.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Yvonne Scheer. My nickname is Miss Madhead. I have been a player or gamer for years now, since I was a child actually. I started with The Legend of Zelda, like a lot of people actually.
What is your cat called?
Sorry?
What is your cat called?
My cat is called Navi because he's following me around all the time. I started playing competitively when I was 19 or 20, I think. I started playing online and I found a team in Austria that played with me for Austrian competitions, championships 10 years ago, and we were quite successful and won 3 championships in a row, which was pretty cool back then, but we did not earn any money on it. We just got like equipment and I wouldn't say fame, but we were known as a team back then. And the esports scene changed since 2013 for sure. After that, I attended a lot of esports and gaming events in Austria and in Europe and other countries. And I built kind of a connection with a lot of people in the scene. I also started to not only attend Austrian events, I also work as an esports referee, which is free education you can do with the Austrian Esports Federation. And in 2018, I became the ESVÖ Genderbeauftragte, which is like a diversity representative. And I talk about diversity in gaming and esports since then.
And also one of the vice presidents.
And since last year, yes, I also became a vice president for the Austrian Esports Federation. And yeah, esports and gaming is my passion, and I'm really looking forward to talk about it today. So thank you.
Hi, Arianusch Riesner. I'm mostly called Ari. I'm also pretty much a nerd. I was playing Game Boys, the old one. Who knows the old one and played on it? Yeah, the old grey one that was so thick. I played on them already when I was 6, and it kept on going with pretty much every game that came out. And then I played some games on Microsoft DOS. And yeah, but on this couch I'm pretty much a noob because I have 2 podcasts that are nerd-based since 2 years now. One is called Nerd Sisters with one of my colleagues that is already here, Iris. And the other one, unfortunately, is not here today. But we are 3 girls that talk about nerd stuff with a specific view on the gender, and our goal is to bring the women out in the nerd base, in the nerd community. And the other podcast is we basically just play Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm the dungeon master, or dungeon mistress, how I like to call it. Yeah.
That's really cool. I've always wanted to try dungeon mastering, but I've never tried so far, but you're inspiring me as well as Yvonne.
You
and
can book
Gabriel.
me now if you want, as today.
And also, as you said, you're a nerd. Ari always reminds me of League of Legends, of the character, so you get that a lot, I think.
Yeah.
And also myself, I'm a host and presenter in the gaming scene, but not only and not solely in the gaming scene. This is why today I'm going to take on 2 roles, like I'm going to be the panel host, but as well taking a little bit part in the panel. And then we come to our first part of our panel. It's understanding game-based career paths. What inspired you to engage in the gaming scene? Like, how did you get started?
So as I already mentioned, I kind of got talked into choosing a career in the gaming industry. Originally, it was not my plan. but I was already engaged into gaming way before that. Like my dad was out a lot, so I misused his PC for playing video games at a very young age. Back then it was like Age of Empires or something like that, but after that Warcraft 3 as well, really good game. And that's what got me into esports basically, and it was ever since then one of the biggest hobbies. Like going out and playing football or doing something else was only plan B. Plan A was always game with friends. And that basically got me into doing it as a hobby all the time since I was young. And so the person talking me into making videos about it was not that like, it wasn't that far off. So that basically got me into that. And after doing my YouTube videos for like, I don't know, like 4 years, 5 years maybe, I got to know a lot of people in Austria as well, because I do German-speaking videos, so most of my audience comes from Germany naturally. But there's a scene in Austria as well, which I didn't know before that. I only know the guys from online and playing the games together and doing the videos together. And then I got to know people here in Austria who work in esports, who work in different agencies, who work in companies who are interested in doing something in gaming. And that's something that inspired me to also take part in pulling together on that like rope to lift up esports and gaming in Austria a little bit more. And that's what got me into working at events in Austria and attending them and making sure people realize there's also something happening in Austria.
And who did you get to know back then? Like one of the first names that comes in mind that pops off?
Actually, it was like 2015. It was Tarek on the Game City, on this pavement right here. Back
All
then,
circling back.
yeah, back then the entrance to the Game City, where you went in, everybody of you went in here today. They used this for an autograph session with me, Chaos Flow, and KS Freak, like the 3 biggest influencers back then from Austria, coming from Austria. And there were so many people, mostly young kids in the age of like 12 to 14, that they blocked the whole entrance. And they had to shut off the entrance because there were too many people queuing up for the autograph session. And that was the first time where I realized, well, it's kind of getting out of hand. It's not online anymore. It's offline, and it's in Vienna, in my hometown as well. So yeah, that was the first time where I really flipped the switch.
It got very IRL.
Yeah, exactly. You realize that like the thousands of numbers of people subscribe to you or watching you. Of course, you can imagine like, oh yeah, that video was clicked like 40,000 times. You could fill a stadium with that, but people would never come. But then actually somebody shows up, and it's not just one person. And that's what's kind of crazy, but cool at the same time.
So what main race were you playing in Warcraft 3?
Night Elf.
Come on, man.
We gotta switch sides here. Maybe another couch. Is that possible?
All right. So I didn't plan on all of that, of course. When I was a student, I already said we had the magazine. So we worked in journalism a lot. So we built, of course, you build a little network. You know the people who work for the publishers. You know the people who work for the games. People like Tarek, for example, for events, for press releases. And so you have those little network. Even after the gaming magazine was no more, were still people you were friends with. And then I got into cosplay. And cosplay was, back then it was kind of new, and not many conventions or events knew how to deal with it appropriately. And the gaming business, the gaming industry was the first who actually realized that those communities are basically kind of the same. They go well together, very well. And that's when events started to always have the cosplay catwalks, those contests, show-offs, companies starting to promote their products with the characters. And that also happened with the people who I used to work with. Usually it's not the same people. They have to direct you to the PR. And that's when we first started, like even Austrian cosplayers started to get a little money by just being present at releases or other events that are hosted by the publisher or where they were present.
Well, for my part, I do not earn money in esports or in gaming. I just have a boring, like, bureau job, kind of. But I can tell you that there are places where you can earn money in esports. We have, on the one hand, the esports athletes that can earn money because they have like a monthly income, kind of, but it's only a few percent of esports players that can actually learn and live from that money. But in an organization, you do not only have like the esports athletes, you also have a full team to support. Most of the time you have a coach or an analyst in your team. You also have like a fitness trainer or a psychologist that helps you to get through your day. It's almost like going to school. Most of the top esports players do have like kind of a schedule that they work over the days. And we have esports events not only online, those are quite easy to attend. There are also big events that are happening offline. Back 10 years ago when I played, it was like in Area 52 with a few teams, offline qualifiers and a big final. One of them actually was at one of the game cities back then. But right now we have big leagues like E-Bundesliga or A1 Esports League that have big sponsors. So the production grew over the years and we have more money and more prize money to win and to make this production possible. And what do you need for a big tournament? A production that can stream, that works with a big stage, lighting, and all the other people that work to make such an event possible. So there are a lot of possibilities to work in esports, but in Austria it's quite hard, I would say.
But there are also HR initiatives, I heard. Like, you took some of your office job, your normal office job, as you said, and you also sprinkled a little esports above it.
Yeah, I'm quite passionate about esports, actually, and I work for a big company. And this year in summer, I asked myself if I can bring esports into my company, and I presented it to the CEOs of my company, and they were quite positively surprised. And in November I'm going to make a Rocket League and Super Smash Bros. Event in my company, and I'm really looking forward how this is going to be accepted in my company. I already got a lot of really, really positive feedback, and I'm really looking forward to the first event, yeah.
And also asked to be coach, Super Smash Bros. Coach.
Yeah, kind of, but I'm not that good.
So I don't get any money either by doing podcasts, but I'm working on it. My main job is actually I'm a news anchor at the radio station. So as you can imagine, I mean, now I'm on maternity leave, but as you can imagine, my whole day is spent on topics like war, economy crisis, and all the other things you know already from the news. So I started this podcast because I finally wanted to talk about something I want to talk. And so I was sitting there with Iris, actually. We were studying for a bachelor degree, and I mentioned that I want to do a podcast, and she was like, I want to do one too. And so we were talking about what should we start, and then we thought about, we are both into gender equality, so we wanted to do something in that direction. So we started the Nerd Sisters, and after that, I love to play Dungeons and Dragons, so I had to do a podcast about Dungeons and Dragons. And now I'm actually, as of today, you can book me as a DM online, and I can also, I do also some constellation if you want. If you want to start as a DM, I can help you with that. But you have to pay me. But I can make you a special price if you want.
But you have the knowledge, so.
Yes, exactly. So I'm working on getting money out of it.
And staying in that direction of topic, what do you perceive as opportunities to earn money with your expertise, with your kind of fields that you're in right now? For some of you, it's more obvious, maybe, or already happening.
maybe I should have mentioned that I don't really earn money. None of Austrians cosplayers actually really does, except a few who kind of drifted to a more adult sector, who's easier to earn money at. But if you really want to earn money, you're in the wrong country. The problem is we don't have the gaming industry here in Austria. We don't have the agencies, the publishers who know the business of cosplaying. For example, in Germany, North Germany, North Rhine-Westphalia, they're very well connected. They get their projects way in advance. It's like when there's Gamescom happening, they already know a team of 10 cosplayers. They need this big ass armor somehow ready by 3 weeks before Gamescom. And that's when they all know what to do. There's like project management behind it. There's like people who know their stuff, the 3D modelers, the printers, the post-productors. Everyone's working on the same project, so they can so they can finish it in time. That's something that single cosplayer who's not connected to like a workshop prop making community would not be.
There's a lot of collaboration happening in the background.
That's true, yeah. But that's like for big projects like Gamescom. There's of course smaller projects too, like Genshin Impact, for example. Over the last years, big boom with MiHoYo. They like to pick their cosplayers, even some who didn't even make their stuff by themselves. People who ordered them online just to have the presence. So if you walk around at conventions where Genshin Impact has their booths, you can often see cosplayers presented by MiHoYo.
So maybe a little side story to that. There's not only cosplaying in the terms of I make and create the cosplay myself, but I can also purchase it, or parts of it.
Yes, that's true. There's this part which is like the original way of cosplaying, which kind of started as a community in a cellar or in small community groups where you really make your own stuff. There was not even social media presence back then needed that much. It was just the way of going out, meeting people at anime conventions, for example. Fanboying, fangirling over your favorite characters or your show together. But over the time, of course, social media became bigger and the opportunities got also.
I would just add to that what you said. We do not have the big publishers in gaming industries here in Austria. A lot of them are in Germany, obviously, and a lot of esports, our esports players also do think about moving to Germany, obviously, because there are bigger companies and clans that pick them up for their League of Legends spots and so on. We do have big Austrian clans like Austrian Force and CC State Banks and some others.
Esports.
Yeah. But if you want to play in the big esports leagues, you have to have money and sponsors to like get a spot and to play for the big prize money and stuff. So it's really hard for here in Austria.
You made me realize that I had forgotten to mention a lot as well, so I might need to.
We circle back to what are you doing in the gaming scene?
Because like when you mentioned the different possibilities of how to earn money, I didn't mention how I earn my money at all. I'm doing that for 12 years now. I started doing YouTube videos while I was still in school, like when I was 14 years old. I did it for 4 years, and for 3 years I didn't earn €1 with it. It wasn't even possible back then. There was no YouTube partnership for Austria, only for Germany, and so it wasn't possible to earn any money. And like the first, one of the first possibilities, besides here on the Game City with the autograph session, was like that I was in a TV commercial for like a big internet provider in Austria, and back then that was like a huge money for me, but it was not enough to live. It was like for somebody who still goes to school, it was amazing. But I could never make a living off of that.
But it's a start.
Yeah, it's a start. And then a YouTube partnership was available in Austria, and then I started getting ad revenue from YouTube, from the videos. And as I mentioned, I already uploaded like once or twice a day. So when the views were good and the growth was good, it was a pretty good earning as well, but it was very unstable. Also because the advertisers choose to pump more money into ads during, for example, the Christmas periods, and at the start of the year they don't have any budget for that. So with the same amount of views you make,
here.
With the same amount of views you make on YouTube in January and February, you make like, let's say, for example, 1,000 euros, yeah? But for the same amount of views in December, you make like 7,000, 8,000 euros. And so it's very unstable. And I lived off of that for like a couple of years when I moved out, but it was too unstable, as I mentioned. I couldn't rely on it because at some point maybe the viewers wouldn't be interested in my content anymore. So that's when I decided to do something else as well. We did merch, for example, and merch was working really good back then, but it also was like only an occurring income when we launched it. And then you have to re-promote it, plan the next collection, plan the next campaign, and that's a lot of effort as well. And with streaming, it's like a more stable thing. You stream every day, and you get income from different sources. People can subscribe to you, you get ad revenue, you're building a platform, a following, and then brands want to engage with you and work with you, and you get brand deals. And for example, that's a big security that I have right now. Like, starting this year, I was signed as a Red Bull player. So basically, I'm a Red Bull athlete. That means I have a yearly contract that pays some of my bills in exchange for attending events, hosting them, promoting them, and playing on them. And that's a big thing I didn't have for the past 11 years. And now I have like a stable source of income like that. So in the past 5 years, I decided to do more. I need to build more like securities. I started an agency where we do social media management for companies, and we do influencer campaigns and bookings. We also do an influencer management now there. And so it's a lot of different sources of income that piled up over the last couple of years to just make it more stable and more secure, because everything can go poof within like a year or something.
Like a very diverse portfolio.
Yes, exactly, exactly. You need to diversify as much as possible. It's the same for esports players, for example. As you mentioned, like Veni Esports, it started as a fun project at the start of this year.
What is Veni Esports?
Yeah, it's like my own esports organization, but it started like as a fun project. As I said, there was a team where I knew the players in Valorant, and they were looking for a team to represent when playing the A1 Esports League. And so they asked me because they knew me, and I was like, okay, sure, it won't cost that much. Like, they will play for free because it's not a really big league. No worries, yeah. Until they qualify for split finals in Berlin. You need to get everybody there, travel costs, hotel costs. You need to get a coach as well because you need to prepare for that, maybe a boot camp.
They were too good.
Yeah, they qualify for A1 finals, then they come to Vienna, every one of them. It's like 4 Germans, 1 Austrian guy. Okay, we can manage that as well. Hotel, boot camp, everything again. And then we need to get jerseys because they cannot sit on stage with their like joggers and like a pajama or whatever. Yeah, they need
like
they need
a CI for that.
Exactly. Then you need to get a graphic designer and set that up, and then you need somebody who produces that. And all of a sudden, like, which started as a fun project in April, yeah, you can play for me. I have 3 teams running under my name and burning thousands of euros for that. So basically, as you mentioned, if you want to play in the big leagues, you need a lot of money, and a lot of money is talking like for Fnatic or G2, it's 100 millions in investments, and they don't even play that money in as well. Like, esports orgs in that scale are not profitable right now. They need to figure out how they are profitable, and that's a really big issue in esports right now. And the smaller teams, they need to find sponsors who are willing to support the team and the mission and the vision of the team. And there's some teams who are like mine, but it's not in that professional case right now, represented by an influencer. So it's more attractive for brands to interact with the esports organization because they have the reach of an influencer who represents it as well. They can buy 2 for 1 basically. Yeah? But that's only like a handful of teams in all of German, the DACH area, I think. And most of the teams are not really that profitable because, as you mentioned as well, you need to hire like coaches, you need to hire like a fitness trainer maybe, a analyst, a psychologist, whatever. Even if it's just freelancers, that's a lot of costs that comes together. And so right now I'm in a circle of earning money through different income sources,
streams, yeah.
Exactly, and then burning it for passion projects like the esports thing or the charity thing.
But that sounds kind of good.
Yeah, I feel good about it. Money comes and goes, but
the experience
stays forever. That's it.
Forever. And maybe we could also dig a little into the part which we already mentioned of esports athletes or players. How is it that they get asked by organizations in different countries? Maybe for our audience here, so we can get into that a little bit.
they get scouted most of the time. So if you're an esports athlete or an esports player that plays for like a no-name or just for fun in leagues, it's like in regular football. You can get scouted in an event, and sometimes there is money transferred to get the player, and sometimes there are contracts. And it is possible to also, or most of the time it's possible to move to another country for this specific company. So, yeah.
And in terms of legal advice, is there anything that comes to mind to you?
Ask him.
We at the Austrian Esports Federation, we have like a lawyer that is in this specific field.
Shout
I
out
can't
to
tell you a lot about it, but it's a lot. It's a freaking lot. You cannot make like a one-pager. It's a lot because, like Veni said, it's like traveling. It's all the things that you can imagine for regular sports players as well, but with a lot more, because we need equipment, we need to travel a lot. We can have events online, but most of them are just like qualifiers for the big events. And it's not said that if you take part in an esports tournament offline, that you win money, because most of the time it's just like the first few places that earn money. So it's really hard.
For example, I could give an insight about like my own team, because that was the first time I experienced it from this side as well.
We're taking notes again.
It's in Valorant, so it's a competitive 5-man shooter, so you have to play with at least 5 people, but you can have substitute players as well. And the league we were playing in is called Project V. It's a DACH circuit, so it's Austria, Switzerland, Germany, but it's like the amateur league. So not in the parameter that you can like get a buyout from a contract and you fly out to another country, you move there and you live in a gaming house. It's not the scale there right now, it's an amateur circuit basically. But you have the option to qualify to the VCL, that's like the top 8 DACH teams, and everybody there is playing full-time basically. So also for all the players who want to make a career out of it, that's like the pay gap jump they have to make. And usually the league works like this. You have in Project V, you have like 3 splits a year, and they take 2 months to 5 months. And you play, it's about 200 teams, I would say, on a regular in the qualifiers. And you play like a calibration tournament, and that puts you into divisions. And at the end of the split, you basically have to farm up points by beating other teams in your division and staying in that division, not get demoted again. And only the top 4 teams, after playing 3 officials a week, 3 games that can earn you points or lose you points, you have to be in the top 4, and then you get invited to the offline tournament. And then you have to win this like 2 times a year, so you can play relegation for the VCL. So it's really hard as a whole team to make the jump from like an amateur team to a full-time paid team. And so what happens most is, like, as you said, people get scouted. The VCL teams, the coaches, the analysts, the scouts, who are all working full-time because they're in an organization, it's established, they have a broadcast, which is a good production. We already heard that all before. They're looking at the teams who are close to making this jump, and they look at the best player, and then they make him an offer. So that's basically how it works.
Thank you for that insight. And also, when looking at you, Stefan, when it comes to cosplay, is there also some kind of league? Are there leagues that are have different kind of stages? How can we imagine that?
So cosplay, of course, is a hobby for everyone, so everyone can basically do cosplay. There is competition, like nearly every convention that you've probably been to, they have cosplay contests. Some of them are internationally established cosplay contests. For example, it goes like, everyone knows the Eurovision Song Contest, where you have to qualify in your own country to be the represent for your country to go into the international ones. And like the thing that I went to a few years ago, when I qualified for Austria, I was in the contest with the best ones from, I think it was 28 other countries in London. And then just the best are on stage competing against each other. A cosplay contest basically is 2 stages. The first stage is you are backstage with the judges. They see your costume, they ask detailed questions, they go into the details about the materials, the techniques used. As a cosplayer, of course, it helps you somehow if you are a seamstress or a tailor, you learn some profession, but that's not enough. You have to be like a jack of all trades, you have to learn the techniques from YouTube, you have to work with weird material that nobody ever would work like you have yoga mats at home, you cut them open, you make armor out of it. That's like... it's
Namaste.
Like, yeah, and then my mom doesn't have the yoga mat anymore and I get scolded. Yeah.
So it's a lot of creativity, but you also mentioned once that it's not about to be perfect with it, but it has to stay and you just have to move around and nothing falls apart. Something like that.
Yeah, about the judging process, the first step is basically like it has to look good, it has to be very accurate to the reference. You have to provide the references, of course, that you work towards to. And the second phase is usually on stage. It's where you do the performance, where best case is not falling apart on stage, which happens a lot of time because people finish their costumes one day before the contests. And that also goes into performance, which is the play part in cosplay. So where you really try to display the character, where you have to be accurate to the way the character behaves or bring some entertainment to stage.
And how would you yourself perceive the image that your career path, be it a side hustle or full-time career path, which perception comes with it in terms of from a societal standard?
As I've been working in a digital agency, in a consultant agency, and we're still doing a lot of business with suits and CEOs and stuff, you know, the people I'm talking about, which is reasons why I didn't share my stuff that I did.
At all?
No, not on Facebook, without mentioning my real name. That went on for a few years, until one point I decided like fuck it. I love that stuff. It's great. I do a lot of good. I help people to find their talent. Do a lot of workshops. Money that I earn goes into the charity for the St. Anna Kinderspital. It's amazing. I love what I do, and I just started sharing it. And then we end up talking with, I don't know, like CEO from the airport Vienna, for example. We talk about the stuff because they see that now, and it's actually. People are more open to it than I firstly anticipated.
And it's part of your authentic self, so...
Now it is, yes.
I would add to that, when I started at my company, I did not share that I'm a nerd at all, because I was a little bit afraid.
Not even with your mugs or something?
Nothing at all. I didn't even wear my nerd shirts to work, because I was afraid people would see it negatively. But right now, everybody in my company, and we have like 2,000 other colleagues, they know that I'm a nerd because I started the league or the event for my company. So yeah, there is that. Yeah, but I got a lot of positive feedback actually, and I learned that I'm not the only one in the company. That's pretty cool. And I found a lot of friends through gaming and through our shared interest of esports. And yeah, we play regularly online. I have like 10 or 15 people that I talk to in my coffee breaks. So we do not talk about kids or what happened on the weekend. We just nerd around about D&D and the newest game that came out. So it's pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of it. But yeah, I have like nerd written on my forehead now, so it's okay.
We also already talked about in panel 1 about Baldur's Gate 3, so check on that.
I'm pretty much quite the opposite. I stand on who I am and I don't give a peep about what people think about me. I always say that I'm a nerd, and actually everybody knows that at this time now, as I have the 2 podcasts. Yeah, but as the community we already are in, is quite impressive how the people react on our podcast, especially the Nerd Sisters, as we started to invite big people like Natalie Denk or Yvonne, Scheer, who was also at our podcast, we started to build up our community, and more people got, even in Germany and Switzerland, we have people who listen to our podcast. And it's actually pretty nice to see that the people like what we do, especially that we are in gender studies kind of involved and try to build up the female or everybody who declares themselves as females has to be open in this community, have to be seen in this community, and that's what we are basically working on, and that makes it so special that the people really like what we do and encourage us to do more, and even tell us, hey, go and invite this person. They will love to be at your podcast and they want to do something for you guys. And yeah, that's just beautiful.
It's a bit twisted for me. Since I already mentioned I started when I was 14 years old, but gaming was a passion way before that. And my parents already knew. But I didn't tell them what I was doing exactly. So they didn't know anything about YouTube, making videos, uploading them. They were just curious why I always wanted to get a better internet connection. At first, like the first 2 years, I didn't even show my face in the videos. There was no face cam, it was just the gameplay. And so people didn't know what I looked like either. It came to turn when I started earning money, as I previously mentioned. I was thinking about going to prison because I didn't pay it to the tax. I didn't know what to do.
We're not live
I was
here.
17 years old. I didn't learn any of
We
that.
don't have a live stream, so that's okay.
Yeah, so
It's worldwide.
I didn't know what to do back then. That was the point when I went to my parents and I said, I think I need a tax
Advice,
or something.
yeah.
And then they found out what I was really doing there, and they didn't understand it all at the beginning because they are from a totally different generation. My mom turned 70 next year, so they don't have any connection to gaming or to like all of the social media stuff.
I can relate to that.
But now it's 2023 and it's been 12 years. They have a Twitter account, X now. They follow me, they watch every single Insta story. My dad watches all of my YouTube videos, so it's been quite a while, but they understand now. And in the rest of the family, it's also, since I come from the countryside as well, not a topic that's pretty well received, I would say. But in general, there's this stereotype about influencers. They do nothing all day, post Insta story and then a fortune. Sadly, that's not true. And yeah, so it always was kind of hard. But as Ari already said, I don't give a F about it, yeah? So yeah, I had to deal with hate comments on the YouTube videos ever since I started when I was 14, 15 years old. And I learned to stand above it. And
get a thick skin.
Exactly. And when people in my school found out, and I did the TV commercial, they played it on like the beamer. And I was getting bullied, not by the other kids in school. Like they did it as well, but mostly from the teachers. And that was quite absurd to me back then. And I was really happy when I quit school and could do this for full time. And ever since then, I don't care anymore what other people think of me. I just let my actions speak for themselves.
I have a question. You mentioned that the earnings when you were 17, you were first dealing with money and earning money through YouTube. And in Austria, there's the Ö3 youth studies, and like I read, like 25% of the young people, they want to get into becoming influencers and like esport players and earn the money there. But there's stuff you don't learn in school, like how to deal with taxes. What do you think should be done in terms of financial literature, or is there anything already?
Sadly not. And there's also rarely people that can help you with it. For example, the tax consultant that my parents sent me to, he was the one, and his father was the one who did it for like the past generations of my family. So we've always been there, basically, at least the self-employed people in my family. But he didn't have any idea about how any of this works. So I was sitting down with him for hours, explaining every single thing so he could understand it in like a tax right perspective. Because he needs to know, why does YouTube pay me? Why exactly does this happen? And then I had to explain, okay, yeah, so there's some persons over the world, mostly in the German-speaking countries, that decide to click on my video, and some of them get an ad, and some of them don't skip this ad, and that's when I get paid on a share from YouTube. And that I had to do for every single source of income that I had, and that I was building up. Now he knows his stuff, so that's pretty good. But sadly, there's nobody who does it for you. So I had to do it all on myself. It was the same with like other stuff, the WKO, not very supportive. Like I had to get a Gewerbeschein. Impossible to figure out which one I had to get. Like I was calling for 8 weeks with different people. Everybody told me something else. I was calling with other influencers. Which one do you have? Everybody has a different one. So it's impossible to see through that. Yeah, and there's so much more to it. Like other regulations, like the RTR. At some point, that's like a I don't know, an organization, a Behörde in Austria, who compare the content somebody makes online to TV content. And if it's sort of similar, then you have to pay a share to them. And I was like the first one to issue a case on myself so that I could be like the role model for everyone else who does streaming or something like that. And I was like at a coin toss whether I have to pay them like some of my money or not. And I was basically one of the first people in a generation who had to go all through that stuff. But from what I hear now, since we already like have the influencer management, we build up careers from people who want to do something similar as well. They have to go through the same stuff. It didn't change that much. And there's not a lot of help you can get from somewhere else besides people who have gone through the similar stuff. So yeah, it's tough, especially in Austria, I think.
But now you can share your experience.
Exactly, that's what we do at the agency. Like, same with the Dungeons & Dragons Master, you have to book it.
And we already heard some of the misconceptions that come with your career path. What are ones that you are aware of? How did that change over time? And how do you deal with them?
Well, the most obvious one is that I out myself as a female gamer online, as well as offline, obviously. But it was really hard for me to play online because I did not expect to get like to face sexism online, and I don't know how you feel about it, but it's really hard. And when I think about myself, like when I was 12 and I would have started playing online and I would face criticism, I don't know how I would have reacted, because you don't learn how to deal with sexism in any case, at work or in a public area or online at school. So it's really, really hard. And over the years, it changed a little bit, and I'm trying to educate people that in front of your smartphone, in front of your tablet, console, or PC, we're all equally able to play the game, and we are also allowed in this space. So it's really important to talk about it, and it's changing, but it's changing really, really slowly, because you cannot change sexism, anti-Semitism, and all the other things like racism in the gaming and esports scene. It's a community problem which we need to solve as a community, and it's only step by step that it's working now. So yeah.
That's actually exactly one of the topics we are working for with the Nerd Sisters. And as for myself, I played Counter-Strike online, and as a woman. And it was, yeah, sexism all over the place. It was very hard, but I had fun though, so I keep on playing, and my name was Killer Kitty, so it was pretty obvious I'm a girl. But yeah, I just played it, and yeah, and for the Nerd Sisters, that's exactly what we are working for, and that's why the Nerd Sisters are there. Mm.
For cosplay, a common misconception in some people's heads, like most people in the public.
Yoga mats?
That would be cool if that would be it. No, that it's linked to nudity, to exposure, and that's stuff that social media, of course, brought up. The thing is, when you are not joining competitions and you get validated by prizes, prize money, or placing somewhere, or get contracts from publishers where you can work at stage, the only thing you can do is make cool pictures and put them online or do videos. And the way you get your gratification is due to likes. And of course, content that is usually shows more skin and stuff like that gets you more likes. And some people, for them, it's hard to get back to the little amount of likes. So that's social media is a big problem, so that you have to really understand what's going on there. I like the initiative of Instagram, for example, when I'm not sure why not every country is doing that. Like they don't show the likes anymore on the picture; they just show some people liked it, not the numbers anymore. So people are not in competition anymore, and the quality could actually improve. But yeah, that's like a big problem, social media, I think.
As I already said, in terms of thinking about an influencer, it's a common misconception that we don't work at all and we earn a lot of money. Some do, but that's not the case for most of the people in this industry. Most of them work really hard to achieve their goals, basically, and to earn money. And on the other hand, what I already said before, as a gamer, people keep telling that you're wasting your time playing games, that you're not gaining anything from it, that it's just stupid and you don't do anything with your life through that. And I heavily disagree with that because you learn a lot through gaming, especially through esports, but there's so much to learn in general. For example, I played a lot of World of Warcraft and I was the raid lead, the guild lead, for example. And that's basically project management. That's a skill that I didn't even learn in school. I went to a HTL, so all I knew was how to code and stuff. But through playing World of Warcraft, I learned how to do project management, and that's what I do in the agency, for example, now. And on the other hand, when you are playing when you're trying to get a professional esport player, then you have to like really set up a schedule. You have to like a real athlete. You have practice times, you have the officials, you need to plan your meals, you need to work out to get a balance, and you need to keep a healthy mental as well. And I think there's so much skills besides that, even if it's reflexes or understanding of stuff that you get through gaming, which people who are not into gaming at all don't really understand at all. And I think that's a common misconception that gamers are stupid, they don't leave their house and cannot do any social interactions. While it's quite the opposite.
This is why we're sitting on a couch now, so you all think and I think that I'm at home and feeling cozy.
You have to leave the house for this, it's terrible.
And also dipping into the competencies you need for your different paths. We already heard some, but for example, Ari, how did you do? How did you get into podcasting? There's an awful lot of technical stuff that you have to know. How did you manage that?
I just learned it by doing it. As I was proceeding, I just started. I mean, some of the programs we learned at the FH. We studied content production and digital media management at the FH in Vienna, and some of the programs, like, I don't want to make any promotion for any, but you know, the big company which has all of the media projects. Products. I work with the audio program for it, for example, and that's basically how I record the podcast and how I cut it and produce it, actually. So, yeah.
But there's also a lot around, isn't it? So you have to promote it and...
Yeah, of course, the whole social media part.
And people's skills as well.
Yes, of course. But yeah, as I said, most of the parts we learned actually at the university. And... yeah. But
some beg to differ.
But of course, it was just like the basic things we learned. So if you really want to go into that, you have to dig deeper and learn it by doing it. And YouTube videos, actually.
Maybe you also want to share how you really got that skills set that you have right now?
Yoga mats.
So it all comes back to yoga mats. So for example, the one that you're wearing right now, what?
Well, that's a bit more advanced. Let's start when I usually started with everything.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, before you want to start with it, you're usually super intimidated. If you see stuff like this, it lights up. Oh my god! Or when you walk around, when you see people walking around in big ass armor, for example. So the barrier of going into that hobby is very high, because people on social media that usually get on your wall, they have this high-end stuff already. So it's very intimidating. So what you should do is just get comfortable with the one thing you like to do. Like maybe you like sewing, maybe you want to try to get into cutting up yoga mats and shaping them into armor, covering them, make them look real. or 3D modeling stuff, which is great nowadays to print your props and know how to post produce them, to get them smooth, evenly, and painted that they look like the real deal. But the best thing is to go to conventions, to meet the community, where you can really talk to people, see people. There's a lot of workshops going on there, panels where you can see different materials, where you can learn to do your first stuff, because it's usually just the first thing that you do, the first cut that you make into the foam, the first time you use a sewing machine. I never sew. I was 26 when I first used a sewing machine, and I thought
you did it.
I thought it was pretty fun. I was YouTube and I was using it. It was pretty cool. And then I went back to show my mom. I was like, oh, sure, look what I can do. And she was like, you're doing it all wrong. She's like, okay, but it looks nice, but it's wrong. Yeah, probably, yeah. But yeah, I didn't know that she was a master seamstress back then when she was younger. So
Oh, okay. Completely different territory.
yeah. But as I mentioned before, you have to. At some point you become a jack of all trades, you learn a lot of different techniques, and they also help you in everyday life. Because if you know how to 3D model something very small, just to 3D print it, for example, and you have the perfect thing that you just needed to make the door stop at the right angle when you open it, for example. That's small stuff that makes you happy when you know you learned something in a hobby, and you pretty enjoy it, and you can also use it for other stuff.
And we already heard that you missed some of that experience or some of those skills when you were in school. You would have loved to get something to know there, like for taxes, for example. But did you also have like mentors that guided you a little bit, or did you someone to look up to, like role models?
Yeah, of course. You always start with role models, but usually it's the intimidating ones. But you have to meet them. The moment you meet them they become like people. And then you talk to them, and then you know they started the same way, and then you lose the fear of it, and you start to do it yourself. And that's what I usually like to encourage in people when I'm at conventions, talking to people, doing workshops. So basically, like everyone can become their favorite character at some point.
I totally agree with you, because in the esports scene it's the same. You have your role models, like in regular esports. A lot of kids say they want to be as good as Messi, for example, which is a really, really high bar. And in esports it's pretty much the same, because you see the top players in the top leagues and you want to become them, and maybe you want to meet them. And as soon as you meet them, they are actual people, and you think you can make the path, but the path is really, really steep.
It's pretty hard to meet Messi, though.
Yeah, true. But you know, and I think it's really hard for kids to differentiate, I think is the word, between a normal career path and to become an esports athlete or an influencer, because they see the Twitch live streams or YouTube and all the other things from their role models, and they want to become them. But it's really, really hard to just like switch on your PC and be one of the top 5% of streamers, right?
Yeah, it's a generational thing as well, because back then when streaming wasn't a thing, like, I don't know, 40 years ago, people probably dreamed of being a TV host or being like Thomas Gottschalk or someone like that, yeah? And before that it was maybe radio, and it's always evolving and always changing, and so it's quite natural that kids nowadays want to become big streamers, big influencers, of course, but it's a big stretch, as you said. Same with being a professional football player. You don't even have to look at Messi, just look at the Austrian Bundesliga, for example. You can get paid full-time if you play there as well, in not even one of the top teams, but it's also insanely hard to be there, because you need to start playing at a very young age, you need to be very good above the rest, train really hard, get into like sort of an academy, and then even get drafted by a team like that. That's all it takes to even get to the point where you earn a stable income. And in the terms of streaming, there's nothing like a stable income, as I already mentioned. If you want to be a streamer or a YouTuber, you'll never have a stable income. There will be months where you will be making a fortune, and then there will be months where you will be making basically nothing at all. And so it's always good to learn stuff. So to catch on the previous question, I also taught myself everything. I was editing my first videos in the Windows Movie Maker. I don't know if anybody knows or ever used that. It's terrible. It's insane. At some points I got my hands on like a cracked version of Sony Vegas, and then I was working with that. And afterwards I was using the big A products as well. Yeah, that's what I was going with now. But it's not accessible if you don't have the money, unless you know your ways. But
But you said correct anyway, so it's,
Yeah, it
it's
doesn't
fine.
matter, yeah. but it's
But there are student versions though.
yeah, exactly. But I was working with 3 different editing versions without ever learning anything of that from anybody. Like I didn't have any person in my social circle who knows how to work with that software. I didn't learn it in school either. So all I could do was watch YouTube videos. And back then, there wasn't that much of an offer on YouTube videos who taught you how to edit. Nowadays, it's flooded with that. And it's the same with other things that come up, 3D printing, for example, or nowadays a big topic, AI. It's something I already use in my daily habits, but I think there's people out there who would like say, oh, you can use it to optimize this and optimize that and do it even better. And so it's a process of constantly learning the new technologies, teaching them yourself and implementing it into your workflow.
And what would be your suggestions for educators, for example? How could you include your kinds of skill sets into school, into everything, I don't know, university programs, student programs? Are there already projects we are working on, for example?
I think there's quite a lot of initiatives, but I think the first step would be to make it accessible for everybody, even people who are not native to gaming or esports. So to make that happen, it would need something like a university league or a school league as well. Somebody only could do that. So basically, I think that's the first part. Introduce it to everybody who's not into it already, and normalize it, that it's a thing, people do it, it's a hobby.
To the stakeholders.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that the stakeholders, that's the point. If the economy rises on that topic, then their interest rises as well. So, and that's what we see happening already. So we just need to put it in our everyday life, make it accessible for everyone, I think. And that's where we lack a little bit of platform in Austria still, and we can improve on that. And afterwards, of course, there should be educational stuff. There should be panels like this more often, accessible to everybody, and on all sorts of topics that interest people. Because as we already talked about, like we talked about so much, it's a deep dive, but we talked about so much different topics here. And we could make a whole panel that lasts hours about the legal stuff in esports. We could do one about taxes and so much more that's really important and people should get a hold of. And I feel nowadays it's mostly educate yourself, so because nobody else does or helps you. So it's kind of a letdown of the system, I feel like. But there's so much possibilities to do that now. Like back in the day when I did it with YouTube, it was already pretty easy, but I wish there was more content that I could soak up. Now it's flooded. You can soak up so much content, but not even on YouTube anymore. TikTok is like it's better than Google if you want to look up anything. Like if you want to bake a cake, for example, you don't Google it anymore because you see a step-by-step guide what ingredients you put in. You just put it in TikTok, you get 50 different videos about the same cake you want to bake, and you can watch the video step by step. It's so much easier. And I feel like technology is evolving, and we need to use it more, especially the system and the authorities.
I think social media and all the new programs definitely should have a place in schools. And gaming and esports is going to schools because we have school leagues with Natalie in Vienna. I also helped build a school league in Styria in Austria. And we played with the kids, and I can tell you a lot of them are really, really motivated to play really good Overcooked or Rocket League. So it's quite fun for the kids, and you have to not only get the kids on board, you also have to get all the teachers on board that are interested in a topic. And I went to the school and had like a little presentation about esports for 1 hour in my school back in Styria. And it was quite interesting what kind of perspective all those kids have on esports and gaming, because they only see Twitch and YouTube and all the big streamers and they want to become them, but they don't have like a feeling for reality, how hard it is to get there. So that is quite a really important part. And those kids, they are not able to learn the big programs in school. They have to learn it by themselves. And as Veni mentioned, a lot of YouTube videos already do that. And I met kids like 10, 12 years old, they already use those programs and YouTube to educate themselves to become like a Twitch streamer or YouTuber. So it's getting there step by step, but we need social media in schools to educate kids how to safely use it and how to do marketing with it, because sooner or later they will need it and use it.
just to quickly add on that, as I mentioned, I taught myself how to use all these programs. I spent years on learning that and spent months on like figuring out how to do a certain editing style, the transition or whatever. And nowadays, people use CapCut on their phone and they just do it with one tap. So basically all I learned in a couple of years is replaced by this one app. And I feel like it's going even faster, like the evolution of technology and how people can use it and implement it into their daily life. And as you said, we need to make sure people can safely use that and not go to a point where the older generations don't even understand what the young ones are doing at all. Because that's part of the issue as of now, but with AI and other tools it could get even worse, I think.
As you mentioned before, the educational system right now, it lacks these certain parts and it needs more initiatives like this, because when everyone remembers back, you know, what were the coolest lessons in school was every time when someone external came into school and showed you something. I was like, oh, cool, it's not a teacher, it's not boring, it's very interesting. So regarding cosplay, I'm very happy that I'm part of a project from the Danube University in Krems. Which is the cosplay tech, which basically makes the boring what was it, the
arts and crafts.
Arts and crafts in Austria tries to, which is very boring. I really hated it, especially when I tried to when I tried to be creative at some point and I don't know, make yeah. We didn't even get yoga mats back then because it was scared to. We could cut ourselves with the knife. No, but when your Santa hat is shaped a little differently because you think it's cooler, but you get a grade down because it doesn't look like all the others for stuff like that. So this kind of courses, the arts and craft, it needs to evolve. Like you need to learn practical skills, or you have to make choices, or become creative, or to do something that you like. Because for the cosplay cosplay tech, when there will be like 5 schools, five schools will be joining the program, and it will be a great opportunity to show them how to make their first armor helmet or some other cool stuff made out of let's say foam, not yoga mats again. Yeah, because it would be weird to provide yoga mats to schools. It would like to. Multi-use, like you do the yeah.
Also for sports and education, so.
First you work out in the gym with them, and then you make them cut it. Yeah.
It's a combination thing.
So yeah, I'm really happy about initiatives like these, and I think it's very interesting what Veni has to say. That also this should be going to schools regularly. I would like to see kids having like a financial literacy course or how to deal with taxes at least like. Once a year, for example, just something to give them the input that there's more out there than they learn in school.
I think when it comes to social media, you should already start in kindergarten, because the kids grow up seeing us adults the whole day with the phones in our hands, and I mean, they realize that we are doing something on it. So actually we should start with the kindergarten with teaching social media, and then proceed with in which direction their interests are going.
And as well educate the stakeholders of them, like
exactly.
the parents and yeah.
Exactly.
And also by educating the stakeholders, as we talked about, we can push the availability of programs. As you talked about, they're all costing money, and it's not that easy to get a hold of or to crack them. So maybe if the parents and also the other parts of the educational system are more aware, it's easier to get to some kind of softwares like that. But I love to talk to you guys. We have a question round incoming, a Q&A, not only live on stream, but also here in Vienna. So if